Hi, folks. Here we are again after quite a vacation here. It's December 2nd, 2017, and um, our topic for this evening is bisexuality because someone asked a question about it, and I know something about it. I know a lot about the history of the Greeks and Romans. So, um, trying to get this picture set here. Um, What is bisexuality? It means, I think the most profound stuff done on this was the Kinsey study back in the 40s, because he found the range of sexuality was like bisexual, people who only had one experiment with homosexuality, and then some who had 25%, 50%, and people who were more homosexual than bisexual. So he found all these categories, and he never followed it up, but he did a pretty good sample showing that the range is much larger. Of course, we know that now because of transsexuals and that sort of thing. So asking whether the Kardashian husband is bisexual, and he says, give me a break, let me figure it out. I don't know. So I myself was bisexual. I was married for 7 years and hadn't a clue. And it seems to me like I chose to become gay simply because my experience with women was so horrible. I mean, it seemed like a choice to me, but that's irrelevant because that's only anecdotal. What do we know? The most profound thought about this is by a gay man who was a historian, a Frenchman by the name of Foucault, and he invented the word in the vocabulary called deconstruction. Deconstruction means this, and this is so true of what I'm talking about right now. Our view of the Romans and Greeks and sexuality, we impose our own view on them. So I'm going to describe both the Roman and the Greek. And the Greeks, I taught this for years, and I read many books on it, and on the culture and on the sexuality. And when we say deconstruction, we mean, well, what was the construction of the Greek view of sex? It's totally different from ours. And this is the way it was. The most important value to the Greeks was citizenship, male citizenship. Women didn't matter. You married at age 30, you could kill your wife and kids if you wanted to. It's an arranged marriage. You don't even live with her. You live downtown. You can have sex with the prostitutes. They're called heteroi. Heteroi meaning the outer women. These people could be educated and could read and write and own property, but they're called heteroi. They could never be citizens. They could never marry a Greek citizen. So this is the focus, is on male citizenship. Males could have sex with men, and here's a funny line, just to show how different their view of things was. This one, I think it was Plato, argued, well, how could a student really get involved in learning if he wasn't in love with his teacher? That just doesn't make sense. And another example was a guy is meeting a friend in Athens, and he says, I saw your son yesterday and he didn't make a pass on me. What does that pass? What does that say you think about me? This is so weird to us. The idea in the Greek view was sexuality, the male citizen had absolute power to do whatever he wanted sexually. It never occurred to him that it was an aberration if he wanted to do it. Now, here's what you couldn't do. You could not have anal sex with another male. Why? Because then he would be inferior, and the central value of Greek culture in Athens, at the democracy, was that the male citizen had to be equal. So what did they do? They had frottage. Frottage is you can rub yourself against his ass, but you cannot enter. And the crime for entering is death. Why? Because you're breaking the one value of Greek culture, equal male citizenship. So this is what deconstruction means. This makes no sense to us whatsoever. But to the Greeks, it made total sense. There was no concept of homosexuality. It didn't matter. The male could do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to, that was fine. No one questioned it. No one thought it was odd. No one thought it was better or worse or anything. It's just part of the culture. In the education system, you went to the gymnasium, and there were there was subjects were geometry, sports, and so the gym was a big thing, and you better fall in love with your gym teacher. Okay, that's the Greeks. The Romans. The Romans had a different value about sex. Their value was screw anything that moves. Male or female, again, it doesn't matter. You have a penis, you've got to put it everywhere. Women quite often poisoned their husbands and killed them. That's their only revenge, because they had no control at all. The man could fuck other men. There's a famous saying about Caesar. Caesar was the husband of every man, and the husband of every man, and the wife of every husband. In other words, they made no concept about homosexuality. There was nothing bad or good. It was just a Roman citizen, a male, wanted to fuck everything he could possibly, poke it in. That was the value. So homosexuality was neither here nor there. You fucked a Roman soldier, you fucked your wife, you fucked anybody you wanted. That's the Roman value. In terms of my own life, I was truly bisexual. I figured out I didn't come out till I was 36. That's a very weird thing when I go back and try and remember what elements of male attraction I had before I became conscious that I could do this. So it seemed like a choice to me. When I was 36, I got divorced. My wife divorced me, not over sex, but over the fact that was 1976. Women wanted to be independent, and she realized she didn't want to be married. So we still remain very close friends. But I was never able to do well with any other woman. God, I just had such terrible experiences for about a year or so. And I finally decided, well, why don't I try this? And then once I did it, I thought, well, women are so sensitive about disease and such, and men are men, and I never got a disease. God, I went through the whole AIDS crisis and all. Wow, I was lucky, I guess, because I was promiscuous. I did not use a condom, and I didn't get screwed much myself. So, God, that was a terrible time. I just resaw that movie, The Normal Heart, last night. Wow, and that's his point. The normal heart is love is what's normal, has nothing to do with your male, female, or whatever. So deconstructionism. Our time is almost up here. I want to conclude. When we look back at history, we tend to impose our own views on the past. I just tried to show you that trying to do that to the Romans and Greek doesn't work at all, because simply they don't have a word for it. They have no concept of it. But we do understand what value they did have, and it just allowed them to do whatever they wanted. And homosexuality was just seen as one of those things that people do, and it's neither here nor there. That's called, for us to see that, what I've just tried to do is deconstruct the Roman and Greek view of homosexuality, meaning they didn't have a view, because they had no stick. And this whole idea of it's natural, I never thought about it. If you can do it, it's natural. So, deconstructionism, and I think it is ironic that the guy who invented this vocabulary, and historians all buy this today, it's one of the key ideas for examining history. Deconstructionism means not getting rid of your own biases when you go back to see history in the past. And when we look at the Roman and Greek view of sexuality, we have to set aside the whole idea of homosexuality. It just doesn't exist. something else exists because another value is more fundamental. So deconstruction means we've got to deconstruct our own view and not impose it on the Romans and Greeks. So to say that the Greeks were homosexuals is just an absurd statement about history, because it never entered their mind. It's like people used to say, my family used to say, I was a child molester. It never entered my mind, but they can think whatever they want. But when I found this out years later, I said, gee, that's odd. It never entered my mind. But they need to deconstruct. Okay, that's it. That's 10 minutes. And we've done bisexuality because someone asked a question about it, and I knew something about it because I taught the Roman and Greek culture for 33 years and read books all those years about this stuff. And it's a very, very interesting stuff. Very interesting because I had to deconstruct my views in order to really understand the Roman and Greek view. And to summarize, the Greek central value was citizenship of the male. He could kill his wife and kids, no consequences. He had absolute power. And the Romans, their value was male sexuality should express itself any way it wants, and there should be no restraint. And so homosexuality was just one option. That's it. Next program, I hope, will be about government should not be run like a business. And that'll be the next program. I'm ready to do that one. So we'll see you soon. Oh, if you want to contact me, it's Larry Moorman, Larry, Larry dot Moorman, Moorman, at AOL.com. And thank you for the comments you've made are wonderful, and I've tried to respond to them. This whole program is a response to someone's question about bisexuality, and I appreciate your response. I've gotten several really positive responses, and I appreciate that because that's why we do this. People are listening, and they're thinking about this stuff, and that's good, isn't it? All right, we're done.